favorite Piers Morgan panel, we're going to look over and use this upload as kind of a relaxing therapy session to get zen and just laugh at these clowns, that being Trump, MAGA, and Piers by extension, with the hypocrisy they have to indulge in and the mental hoops they have to jump through just to coddle Donald Trump and his balls, and the fact that they can't reckon with, in which he actually represents the opposite of everything he claimed he stands for, of which he claimed he stands for. These people had to make their entire personality by extension of joining the cult, just for him to come out and show them, hey, I'm everything that you're supposed to hate. It's been a hilarious phenomena to watch unfold, and we're going to continue that trend today.
This neocon idea of if we attack them, they'll love us is ridiculous. No, they don't love us. Now, you say also, hey, Trump's been planning for 4 years. But when people said, hey, they're planning to do this Project 2025 for 4 years, the right wing flipped out and said, no way, that's not going to happen. No way. He's not planning at all. And then he gets in office and he's doing it pretty much exactly like Project 2025 said. In fact, he put the author of Project 2025 as the head of the Office of Management and Budget. And so they've done some things that I think are terrible, cutting U.S. aid. Now, all of a sudden, the donors are in charge of the Treasury, one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. Now, having said that, I understand what's going on with the tariffs.
Do you mean Elon Musk?
Bluffing.
Do you mean Musk?
Oh, I mean Musk, and apparently a whole army of Silicon Valley CEOs have now been empowered to access all of the money of the American tax.
I mean, you gotta love how shamelessly these idiots are just like, we actually love unelected bureaucrats, and we think billionaires running the government is a great thing. Like we're not gonna remember what they were saying 90 days ago. Like, what was that these last 4 years about George Soros and Mark Zuckerberg again, and the bureaucratic state needing dismantled? These people are so stupid. I feel like they actually think everyone will forget what they were just saying and that they can get away with this. All these people care about, those at the top, that is, the relevant ones, right? The MAGA snowflakes watching this video, you don't really matter. You're pawns. You don't realize it yet. All they want is more billionaire control. They want to pull back from the administrative state, the social safety nets, because the more they do that, the more goes into corporatization, a corporate state, and then the more they can prioritize profit over any sort of standard or baseline for workers for the middle or lower classes. And that's, again, what this class of people want, because they're the elites, they're the establishment, they're essentially talentless, they're often not that intelligent, so they need every advantage they can get, the ability to rake in every single dollar they can, and the MAGA base eats it up, probably without even realizing that they're only told to hate the Jewish billionaires. I wonder why that is.
They're loving it until they find a couple of $1 trillion missing, and then they're going to go, oh, he had a big brain, but he didn't use it for us, he used it for himself. So you guys are asking us, and by the way, this is the least populous position on planet Earth. Trust the big brain billionaires. You know who else has a big brain? And the right wing would agree. George Soros, not only one of the greatest investors of all time, but according to the right wing, has manipulated the American government to totally work for him for decades. If that's true, he has a giant brain. Should we put him in charge of the Treasury? No, because just because you're smart, if that's even true, doesn't necessarily mean that we should give you the keys to the kingdom. That is controlling all of the taxpayer money. If they do something on their own behalf, which is a near guarantee, you're telling me all the Silicon Valley CEOs are angels and they would never do anything for their own behalf?
No, guys, trust him. The most worker-first, anti-establishment idea you can have is to obviously trust all the big billionaires with the power. Just give all the corporations the power. That's totally not just the establishment. I mean, billionaires have always had our best interests in mind. We were all told, again, how evil and corrupted the Democratic Party was because, well, George Soros donates to attorney generals and thus he controls the party, I guess. So it's the establishment and all of this, despite there being no public direction, no public government intervention, anything you could ever connect Soros to the government with outside of him being someone who donates. But now when Musk donates $250 million, then takes over OPM, our paycheck system, the Treasury, potentially our social security numbers, our personal sensitive data, and is shutting down government agencies to the point that elected lawmakers are blocked from entering, that's not corrupt or evil. It's just a sick, cool billionaire who has our best interests in mind. And it's a great idea, guys, because he's just a chill guy who wants everyone to do wonderful. I mean, Jake really makes a good point here when he says that just being intelligent and successful doesn't mean you should be handed the keys to anything in our government. There's a moral, ethical, practical standard, among other things, that none of which Elon meets, or Trump for that matter. And I mean, Elon is absolutely not intelligent. He's at best, and this is me being generous, maybe slightly higher than average intelligence. I would say maybe average or below, right? He's someone, when you have a big bag, one, you can make mistakes. And two, he just understands business well. You don't have to be smart to understand a thing. You just have to be dedicated to said thing. He has the communication skills of my 6-year-old, like quite literally.
Coming right out of the crash, when you start blaming DEI, what you're saying to your base is, oh, I'm not going to look into what went wrong here. Was it the plane? Was it the helicopter? Why was it the miscommunication, overstaffing, understaffing? Obviously, overstaffing is not an issue, but understaffing, et cetera, right? You're coming out and going, minorities did it. And that's a terrible look. And, you know, you could say, hey, you know what, Cenk, you just told us that there were some DEI abuses. That's right. And that's part of why they won the election. But if you then swing the pendulum so far that you blame minorities after every single incident, which is basically what looks like it's happening right now, you're going to turn off the country. You certainly turned me off. And then they'd realize, oh, wait, black voters are coming towards us, so that's a bad idea. So Jesse Waters goes on Fox News and goes, well, okay. It wasn't black people. It was dwarves, the deaf, and transgender people.
And while I disagree with a lot of what Cenk says here, he is spot on about what the right is doing. And it's just another scapegoat to not have to blame anything on Trump. So instead, they're just going to throw the minorities under the bus like, you know, they've been doing for decades. And why not? So as soon as the crash happened, before we knew who even flew it, we had X, we had MAGA, we had Trump even flooding the waves with how this is DEI's fault. When it's Biden who's in office and these things happen, it's instantly DEI's fault. When it's Trump, it's, well, we need to wait, but it's probably DEI's fault, only to find out that it had nothing to do with it. All the members there were like well overtrained. They were well experienced, and it absolutely completely falls on Trump. Who would have thought? He paused hiring. He froze literally hiring this security traffic air controllers. He fired the top 100 FAA members. He fired the entire aviation safety committee. I mean, he just gutted the safety control side of things without having the foresight to pause these federal flights that will be affected from it, where it just then led to this happening shortly after. The first crash like this in decades, right? Like over a decade at least, if not, I'm pretty sure it's like decades. Like it's literally been a long time since something like this has happened. But we're supposed to believe it was a coincidence. We're also supposed to believe it was DEI, but Biden had DEI in place his whole 4 years, and this didn't happen under him. But then Trump comes in and says he killed DEI, says he fired all the DEI workers, and says he ended all the DEI regulation, but now something happens. Like it just, these critical thinking is not MAGA's strong suit. Trump has failed us now domestically. He's failed us now abroad, and he's even failed those just serving in different capacities, already directly leading to every single death in this DC flight. Do not be mistaken, is directly on the hands of the failed 47th president, 34 count convicted felon, rapist, fraud, and we'll throw racists in there too, because it's true, so why not?